Okay, today we were looking at this worksheet that is practice for deciding whether or not we know if two triangles are congruent, whether we have enough information to be able to say it. And the 5 triangle congruence postulates and theorems are all mentioned right here. Okay, those are the 5 options. Basically, here's the strategy. If I look at the triangles, the first thing I want to know, because all of these require it, is what 3 pieces of info do I have? Sometimes I have 3 pieces of info that are all marked. Sometimes I have 2 pieces or just 1 piece of info that's marked, and then there's something else that I know. Usually something else that I know would be something like there's a shared side in between these 2 triangles, so that side is congruent to itself. So if I have one part of the triangles that is adjoined, that has a shared side, then I can say, oh, that counts as a pair of congruent sides. If I have maybe vertical angles, that counts. Sometimes you'll have other information, but basically the idea is I have to come up with 3 pieces of information, 3 pieces of congruence information. 3 things that are either sides or angles that are congruent. Now, if I have found my 3 pieces of information, the next question becomes, which of these is it? All right? If I can't make a case that it's one of these, then the answer is still not enough information, even if I have 3 pieces of information, even if I have 4 pieces of information. Okay? So that's what we're doing here. So on number 1, originally I was given 2 pieces of information. This side is congruent to this side. And I have a pair of angles up here. Angle ABD is congruent to angle CBD. So 2 pieces of info. But then I saw that BD is in both triangles. So that counts as a 3rd pair of congruent sides. So now I have 3 pieces of information. 2 of those pieces of information are sides. This pair of sides, this pair of sides. 1 pair of information is angles. So looking at this, I'm looking for one that has 2 S's and an A. There's only one that has 2 S's and an A, side angle side. Now, just the fact that I have 2 S's and an A does not automatically make it side angle side. Specifically, the angle has to be the included angle in the middle between the 2 sides. So that's the next thing I'm looking at, is I'm looking at whether in both triangles, if I trace each of the 2 sides, the angle is right there where they meet, which it is. If I trace the 2 sides, I have formed the angle that is the marked angle, and so yes, that is the included angle. That's why I said this is congruent, these 2 are congruent by side angle side. In number 2, I only had 2 pieces of information. I don't have any more information than that. There's no shared side, there's no vertical angles, there's nothing to tell me anything else is congruent. So that's it, not possible. Number 3, I do have 3 pieces of marked information. I have 2 pairs of sides, this pair of sides, PQ and EM, and then this pair of sides, EN and PN, EN and PR, and then I have a pair of angles, angle N and angle R. Great, I have 2 S's and an A. The thing is though, they have to specifically, the only one here that has 2 S's and 1 A is right here. And the only way this is true is if the angle is the included angle between those 2 sides. So to find that out, I could trace my 2 sides. Here's a side, here's a side. The included angle for those 2 sides would be angle P, and that's not what was given to me. So this is not side angle side, which means I don't have enough information. Moving on to number 4. Number 4, I have 3 pieces of information. I have a pair of congruent sides TU and WX. I have a pair of congruent sides TS and XV, and a pair of congruent sides SU and WV. So they are congruent. The only one that has 3 pairs of congruent sides and no angles, because notice that I don't have any angle information here, so I'm not going to write anything that has an A, is side, side, side. Okay, so these are congruent by side, side, side. Now, in terms of my congruent statement, I have to make sure my order is correct. So they gave me the first one, STU, STU. First thing I would notice is that S is the point where the side with 2 marks and the side with 3 marks meet. So coming over here, I would look for the point where the side with 2 marks and the side with 3 marks meet. That's V. So V goes with that. Then T is the intersection of the side with 2 marks and the side with 1. So over here that would be X. And that leaves us with W as the last last vertex. All right, next, number 5. Now, on this one, we have a right triangle. This is the first time we've actually had the ability to potentially use hypotenuse leg. All these other ones could not use hypotenuse leg because they're not right triangles. This one can use it, but it doesn't have to use it. It could use any of the 5. So I'm going to look. That counts as one thing that I know in terms of congruence. That's one piece of information. Second piece of information here is my shared side. I know that YA is congruent to itself. Unfortunately, that's all. I don't know anything else. That's only 2 pieces of information, so that's not possible. I don't know, I know it looks like it, but I don't know that ZA and BA are congruent. If they had told me A was the midpoint, okay, then I would know it, but they didn't give me any information about that. So I don't have any information for a third congruence, and that's where I have to stop. All right, here I have 3 things marked. CD is congruent to FG, DE is congruent to GH, and angle D is congruent to angle G. Okay? What have I got? I've got 2 sides, 2 pairs of sides, pair of sides, pair of sides, and then a pair of angles. That's 2 S's and an A. Okay? This is a right triangle. So theoretically, HL could work. So either HL is a possibility or SAS is a possibility because it has 2 S's and an A. What's the hypotenuse of triangle CDE? It's CE. I don't know anything about the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is not going to be how I know. Okay? So I'm not going to use HL. But what about SAS? Do I have SAS? I do. Angle D is the included angle for sides CD and ED. Okay, so that's SAS. Congruence is CDE, goes with FGH. All right, moving right along. Number 7. On number 7, I have 2 pieces of information that are marked. I have a pair of angles that are congruent. I have a pair of sides that are congruent. I also have a side that is in both triangles, so I can consider that my third piece of congruence information. So now I have 2 pairs of sides, and then I also have 1 angle, so I'm going to think about possibly SAS, okay, because that's the only one with 2 S's and an A. All right, I can't use HL here because it's not a right triangle. So 2 S's and an A, I have to make sure that the A, the angle, is the included angle. Here are my 2 sides. Is that where the angle is? It is. Same thing up here. 2 sides here and here. That is the included angle, so yes, this is SAS. And I can say that KJM, K is the marked angle, J is not, M is also touching the middle part. Goes with M, L is not marked at all, and K touches the middle part, so MLK. Okay, prestigious initials. All right, then we have number 8. Number 8, we have 2 pieces of marked info, and we also have a third piece of info, and that is PR is congruent to itself. So do I have any angle markings? No, I have no angle markings, so I'm not going to use anything that has an A, and it's not a right triangle, so I'm not going to use HL. So that leaves us with SSS. That's what we have. SSS. Triangle NPR goes with QPR. Next, on number 9, I have 2 pieces of information marked and 1 that is not marked. What is my 1 piece of information that is not marked? I have a pair of congruent angles that are vertical angles right here. I'm still noticing in my class students accidentally calling these angle U. You cannot say angle U about this picture. There is no angle here that you can call angle U because I would have no idea what angle you mean. There are actually 8 possibilities. So you have to use three-letter angle names in a situation like this. So angles SUT and WUV, SUT, WUV, those are my congruent angles. However, now that I have three pieces of information, two sides, one angle, can't be this because it's not a right triangle. This doesn't have two sides, one angle, two sides, one angle. Oh, here we go, two sides, one angle. But is it the included angle? The answer is no. The included angle for this triangle right here would be angle V. So no, it's not the included angle. This is not possible. That would be ASS, and we don't have ASS. Okay? Next. Number 11. I'm sorry. Number 10 is actually identical to number 9, really. Same idea. We have a pair of angles there. It's vertical angles, but it's not the included angle, so that's not possible either. That would also be ASS, which does not exist. Number 11. Number 11, we have two pairs of marked sides, and then look, we have a shared side, so that means we have a third pair of sides that's congruent. So again, we've got nothing but sides here. We do have three pairs of congruent sides, so we would say side, side, side. DEG is congruent to FGE. If you put angle, if you put anything with an A in it, you need to go back and look and realize there's nothing here about angles. I don't know anything about angles. I don't have a vertical angle pair. I've got no information about any angles. Number 12. Here's another one where I have a vertical angle pair right here. Angle HKJ and angle LKM. Those are congruent angles. So I've actually got plenty of information on this one. I've got side, side, side. I've got side, angle, side. That's about it. Okay, so I could say either one, side, 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 or side, angle, side. HJK is going to be congruent to, let's see, MLK. Okay, number 13. Let me point out to you, well actually let's do this one first and then I want to point something out to you about it. These are congruence markings. We will come back to that. What else do I know here? Well, I know that this is a shared side. That means VT is congruent to itself. That's two pieces of information. Do we have a third piece of information? That's a big no. So not possible. Now let's say just for a second, what if instead of the congruence markings that are there, these had been arrows? Sometimes you'll see one like that. That would tell me that ST is parallel to VU. That would tell me that alternate interior angles are congruent. So that would be some additional information. Now in this case, that still wouldn't be enough information because then I'd have this, and I'd still only have two pieces of information, a pair of congruent sides and a pair of congruent angles. But if I also still had the original, those are congruent, now I would have enough. Now that would be side, angle, side. Okay, but that's not what was there. So don't change your problem to look like that. Number 14, we have two right triangles, so that means HL is on the table. It's a possibility. So that means I have 5 options here that I'm looking for. Angle X is congruent to angle Z. That's one piece of information. WY is congruent to AY. That's 2 pieces of information. What else do I know? Nothing. That's it. I can't say anything else. Not possible. What if they had told me that that point Y was the midpoint of XZ? Well, that would have been great because if they had told me that, then I could have said, okay, that means these are congruent. But they didn't tell me that. So this is wishful thinking on my part. And the reason I'm saying this is sometimes you'll be asked in that way. You'll be asked, what else would you have to know? Okay, so in this case, if I had known that, that would allow me to use HL actually. Hypotenuse here and leg. But again, I didn't know that. How about this one? Pretty much the same scenario. I've got a pair of congruent angles, I've got a pair of congruent sides, and then I'm done. I've got nothing else. So let's ask that question that I was just talking about. What else would I have to know in order to use hypotenuse leg for this one? Well, I'd have to know that the hypotenuses were, because this is a leg, and I have the right triangles. I would have to know that CF is congruent to CE. So if I were asked that, my answer would be this. I would have to say, this is what I would have to know in order to use hypotenuse leg. Okay? That's not what we're really being asked here, so I'm just talking about other types of problems. What if it said, what else would I have to know in order to use angle, side, angle? We haven't had one of those. Well, angle, side, angle, I have to have two pairs of angles and one pair of sides. I only have one pair of angles, so I definitely need another angle. But would it be this angle and this angle? Or would it be this angle and this angle? Well, if I'm trying to use angle, side, angle, that means the side has to be the included side. So that means this side has to go between the two angles on this triangle, and this side has to go between the two angles on this triangle. So it would have to be this angle over here by C. And then I would have angle, side, angle. So if I was asked that, what additional information would be needed to use angle, side, angle to prove these are congruent? I would say angle BCF would have to be congruent to angle DCE. So if you're asked a question like that, now you know how to do it. That's not what we're asked here for.